What if I told you that the very thing you're praying to escape might be the thing that's preparing you to become? What if the storm you're in right now isn't a detour, but a doorway? A doorway to the strongest, most powerful, most real version of you. See, pain doesn't come to punish you. Pain comes to reveal you. And the pain you feel today, that's not the end of your story. That's the beginning of your becoming. I know what it feels like to be shattered, to sit with the weight of disappointment, betrayal, loss, or simply the exhaustion of trying to hold it all together. We live in a world that often teaches us to hide our pain, to shrink our wounds into silence. But I believe there's power, real, altering power, in naming it, in feeling it, in walking through it, not around it. Because here's the truth most people won't tell you: pain is not the enemy. Pain is the teacher. It is the sparkter of our character, the spark behind our growth, and the birthplace of some of our most extraordinary strength. Every time you survive something that once threatened to break you, you are being shaped into something deeper, wiser, stronger, and more capable than you ever thought possible. This speech is not about pretending the pain doesn't hurt. It's about honoring it, learning from it, and then rising, not in spite of it, but because of it. What you're walking through right now might just be preparing you for the most meaningful chapter of your life. And when you come out of that storm, and you will, you won't just be healed, you'll be transformed. So let's talk about how the pain you feel today becomes the strength you feel tomorrow. Let's talk about how your deepest struggles can shape your greatest purpose. Because you didn't come this far just to survive. You came to rise. Pain is one of life's greatest teachers. It comes uninvited, often when we least expect it, through disappointment, failure, loss, or betrayal. And in the moment, pain feels senseless. It feels cruel. But if you look back at the moments that shaped you the most, the times that forced you to grow, to shift, to awaken, chances are they didn't come wrapped in joy. They came dressed in heartache and discomfort. Growth is not born in the calm. It is carved in the storm. Struggle demands something of us that ease never could. When everything is going well, we coast. We settle into comfort zones. We operate on autopilot. But when life throws us into the fire, we are forced to find parts of ourselves we didn't even know existed. We build endurance. We develop emotional muscles. We deepen our understanding of who we are and what we're capable of. The struggle isn't there to destroy us. It's there to strip away the false layers so that our real strength can come forward. And make no mistake, growth doesn't always feel good while it's happening. In fact, it rarely does. It's messy, it's painful, and it often feels like breaking before it feels like building. But just like a seed must crack open to become a tree, or a caterpillar must dissolve into mush to emerge as a butterfly, transformation requires some degree of destruction. It requires the death of comfort, the surrender of certainty, and a willingness to walk through the unknown. When you're in the thick of struggle, it's easy to believe that the pain is all there is. But time has a way of showing us what we can't see in the moment. That heartbreak that almost undid you. It taught you how to love yourself. That job loss that shook your confidence. It redirected you toward your purpose. That betrayal. It revealed your boundaries and gave you discernment. These aren't just scars, they are signatures of growth. They are proof that you faced something hard and chose not to give up. So if you're struggling today, understand that you're not breaking down. You're breaking open. Life is stretching you, not to torment you, but to prepare you for the strength, clarity, and purpose that lies ahead. You may not feel it now, but the version of you that's emerging from this struggle will be wiser, kinder, and stronger than the one who walked in. Pain, in its rawest form, often feels eternal. When we're inside it, grieving, doubting, breaking, it can seem as though it will never end. The nights feel longer. The mornings feel heavier. And hope, if it exists at all, flickers like a dying flame. But here's the thing we forget in the thick of it: pain, while powerful, is not permanent. It passes. It evolves. It transforms. What stays with us long after the pain has subsided is not the suffering, but the strength we built while enduring it. Pain has a peculiar way of compressing time. A week of suffering can feel like a lifetime. But once it passes, and it will, we're often surprised by how much we've changed. Think of physical exercise, how sore muscles feel the day after a hard workout. That soreness is not a sign of failure, but of growth. The discomfort is temporary, but the strength it creates, that's yours to keep. Emotional pain works in much the same way. It breaks us down not to diminish us, but to rebuild us in a more resilient form. And strength gained from pain doesn't always roar. Sometimes it's subtle. It's the quiet resolve that helps you set a boundary you used to avoid. It's the calm in your voice when chaos surrounds you. It's the decision to try again, not because you're fearless, but because you've already survived worse. These are the unseen muscles we gain through hardship. We carry them in how we walk, how we speak, how we love, and how we lead. The pain you're experiencing right now may be asking more of you than you think you can give. It may feel like a burden too big to bear. But what if it's also a gift? What if this moment is not the end, but the middle of a powerful transformation? What if the strength you'll wake up with months from now, when the pain has lifted, is already beginning to form inside you? We don't always get to choose the pain that visits us. Life can be indiscriminate in its cruelty, but we do get to choose what we carry forward from it. Do we carry bitterness or do we carry strength? Do we let pain harden our hearts or deepen our compassion? Those choices are the bridge between temporary pain and lasting power. And remember, nothing you go through is wasted. Every tear, every setback, every lonely night is contributing to your becoming. The pain will fade, but the strength that becomes a part of you, it doesn't announce itself with fanfare. It arrives quietly. One day, you'll wake up and realize you're not the same person who broke down. You're stronger. You're freer. You're more you than ever before. There are times in life when we think we know ourselves, our limits, our strength, our capabilities. We have an idea of who we are and what we can handle. But then pain comes. It walks in without warning and strips us down. It brings us face to face with fear, with despair, with vulnerability. And in those moments, we believe we are weak because we feel broken. We mistake the cracks for collapse. But here's the paradox: it is in the moments we feel most powerless that our true power begins to emerge. Pain doesn't create our inner power, it reveals it. That strength has always been there, buried beneath layers of comfort, routine, and assumption. Pain, in its brutal honesty, tears away what's superficial. It forces us to dig deeper. It brings us into contact with the part of ourselves that fights to keep going, that refuses to quit, that chooses to get back up even when standing feels impossible. When you lose something, someone you love, a dream you've chased, a future you thought was certain, it can feel like a death. A part of you shatters. And yet, what often rises from that grief is a version of yourself that is more awake, more grounded, more aware of what really matters. You discover that you are capable of rebuilding. You find a clarity that comfort never gave you. You find a will to live fully, not in spite of the pain, but because of it. And the most profound truth of all, you don't find this strength through avoidance. You find it by going through. You find it in the quiet moments when you show up for yourself, when you keep moving forward, even with tears in your eyes. That's the power pain reveals. Not arrogance, not false confidence, but unshakable inner knowing. The kind of power that doesn't need to shout, it just is. There is a sacredness in survival. There is a fire that ignites when you realize you made it through something you once thought would destroy you. And that fire doesn't burn others. It warms you. It lights the way for others who are still walking through their own darkness. Your pain makes you powerful not because it defines you, but because it refines you. So the next time life knocks you down, the next time the world goes quiet and all you can hear is your own aching heart, remember this: the strength you're looking for is not out there. It's already within you. And pain, for all its fury, is simply the mirror that shows you who you've been all along. There's a myth we often carry, that some people are just naturally stronger than others, that they were born with some special armor, some secret ingredient that makes them immune to the struggles we ourselves find unbearable. But that's not the truth. Resilience is not a trait handed down like an heirloom. It is a skill, a craft, a way of being that is built layer by layer through experience, hardship, and choice. No one wakes up resilient, you become resilient. And don't become it by having everything go right. You become it by surviving what went wrong. Every setback you've faced, every heartbreak that threatened to hollow you out, every time you had to stand up again after being knocked down, that was when your resilience was forming. Not when people were cheering for you. Not when life was easy and plans unfolded exactly as expected. No. You learned resilience in the quiet moments, in the dark corners of your story, when no one was watching and you had every reason to give up, but didn't. That's the thing about pain, it gives you a choice. You can let it break you down, or you can let it build you up. And choosing the latter doesn't mean you don't cry or grieve or feel defeated. Resilience doesn't mean perfection. It means you continue anyway. It means you show up, even if you're trembling. It means you believe in the possibility of healing, even when healing feels impossible. And resilience builds differently in everyone. For some, it's loud, a fierce voice that says, "I will not be defeated." For others, it's soft, a gentle whisper that says, "I'll try again tomorrow." Both are equally strong. Both matter. Because resilience doesn't have one face. It has your face. It looks like your life, your battles, your rise. We are often too quick to underestimate ourselves. We believe we can't handle the next thing because the last thing nearly destroyed us. But what if that last thing didn't destroy you? What if it strengthened you? What if it was the very process of becoming resilient? Each time you choose to keep going, each time you let a scar remind you of your strength instead of your suffering, you are building something unshakable, and not just for yourself. Resilience is contagious. When you become it, you show others what's possible. You become living proof that pain is not the end of the story. So no, you weren't born with it, you earned it. And every time life throws something at you that you think you can't handle, remember you are not starting from nothing. You are starting from experience, from strength, from resilience already built. Pain is often seen as something that isolates us, and it can feel that way. When we're hurting, it can seem as if no one else understands. As if the world is moving on, laughing and breathing and living, while we sit frozen in grief or anxiety or heartbreak. But the strange gift of pain, the part we don't always see at first, is that it softens us, it breaks open our hearts. It turns judgment into compassion and distance into connection. Pain becomes the bridge between human experiences. When you've known loss, you recognize it in others. You can see it in the way someone goes quiet in a loud room, in the way their smile doesn't quite reach their eyes. When you've felt the sting of rejection or failure, you become slower to judge someone else's misstep. You don't need all the details. You can feel what they're going through. That's empathy. And it isn't something we're born with in full. It's something we grow into, piece by piece, wound by wound. Pain teaches us that we're not so different after all. We might speak different languages, wear different faces, live on opposite sides of the world, but pain is universal. That's one of the few things every single human being will experience in some form. And once you've lived through it, you start to listen more deeply. You lean in when someone is telling their story. You stop trying to fix people, and you start being with them, really being with them. Not above them, not apart from them, but with them. This shift, this movement from suffering to empathy, is how healing ripples outward. You heal yourself, yes, but then your presence becomes healing for others. Not because you have all the answers, but because your spirit says, "I've been there." You're not alone. Some of the most compassionate people you'll ever meet are not that way by accident. They didn't read it in a book. They earned that softness. They were carved by sorrow. They chose to let their pain expand their heart instead of closing it off. That's what empathy is. It's love after pain. It's the refusal to let suffering harden you. And when we begin to live from that place, we create safer spaces, not just for others, but for ourselves. We stop pretending we have to have it all together. We realize that vulnerability isn't weakness. It's the glue that holds humanity together. And all of it starts with the courage to feel our own pain, to honor it, and then to use it, not to build walls, but to build bridges. Because in the end, the pain we've lived through becomes a light. And that light doesn't just illuminate our path, it helps guide others out of the dark too. It's easy to romanticize purpose, to think of it as this shining, clear path that we wake up one day and discover. But purpose doesn't arrive with ease or certainty, and is rarely revealed in moments of comfort. Purpose is often born in the middle of adversity, through pain, through confusion, through the very moments we wish we could erase. And the truth is, many of the most meaningful callings in life come from the places where we were once most deeply wounded. Adversity breaks us open in a way that ease cannot. It forces us to ask the hard questions. Why am I here? What truly matters to me? What can I do with this pain? And when we start looking at our pain not as a punishment, but as preparation, the story begins to change. Adversity, as brutal as it may be, strips away the excess. It clears the noise. It pushes us toward clarity and conviction. You don't know your strength until it's tested. You don't know your compassion until you've had to rely on someone else's. You don't know your voice until it's been silenced and you've had to fight to reclaim it. In every one of those battles, adversity was not detouring you from your purpose. It was pointing you to it. It was placing tools in your hand: experience, wisdom, perspective, grit. The very things you'll need not just to survive, but to lead, to inspire, to build, to serve. Some of the world's most powerful movements, messages, and missions were born in pain. That nonprofit that feeds children, it was likely started by someone who once went to bed hungry. That therapist who holds others through trauma. Perhaps they, too, once sat on the other side of the chair. That speaker who gives hope to crowds. Their light likely came from surviving something dark. Purpose doesn't always look shiny at first. Sometimes it looks like breaking, like rebuilding, like rising again and again. But make no mistake, your adversity is not a mistake. It is not evidence that you are off course. Sometimes it is the curriculum life uses to prepare you for your next chapter. Not because you need to suffer to be worthy, but because walking through your own fire gives you the authority to help others through theirs. And when you begin to understand that your struggle can serve something greater, that your story has power, that your healing can become someone else's hope, something profound happens. You stop asking, why me? And you start asking, what now? What can I create from this? How can I use what I've learned? And that's where purpose lives. Not in perfection, but in the absence of adversity, but in the sacred space where your deepest pain meets someone else's deepest need, and you find yourself equipped, not by chance, but by everything you've lived through. Healing isn't loud. It doesn't always come with a big announcement or a dramatic moment of closure. Sometimes, healing is simply waking up and realizing you didn't cry this morning. It's noticing that the thing that once paralyzed you now only stings a little. It's finding yourself smiling at something simple, a breeze, a familiar song, when you once believed you'd never feel light again. Healing isn't an endpoint. It's a powerful, ongoing act of reclaiming yourself. People often mistake healing for forgetting, for moving on, for pretending it never happened. But true healing is none of those things. Healing means facing the wound, not avoiding it. It means looking your pain in the eye and saying, you happened, but you won't define me. That's real power. Not the kind of power that dominates others, but the kind that anchors you, that steadies you, that helps you build a new life on ground you never thought would be solid again. And let's be honest, healing can be messy. It's not linear. Some days you'll feel like you've conquered the world, and others you'll find yourself back in the ache. But don't let that discourage you. Every moment you choose to feel, to breathe, to get out of bed, to speak kindly to yourself, those are victories. Quiet victories, yes, but powerful ones. Healing isn't just surviving what hurt you. It's transforming through it. It's using the scar not as something to hide, but as proof of your resilience. What people often forget is that healing gives you something that pain never could: agency. Pain often takes. It steals time, confidence, clarity. But healing gives back. It returns your voice. It rebuilds your self-trust. It reminds you that you are not defined by what happened to you, but by what you choose to do with it. And when you walk through your healing, you begin to radiate something unshakable. People feel it in your presence. The quiet strength, the grounded energy, the knowing. That is power. It takes immense courage to heal, to go back into the wounds that once broke you, to sit with them, to grieve them, and then to release them. That takes more bravery than any show of force. That's a power no one can give you, and no one can take away. It's yours. Earned, fought for, lived through. And as you heal, your light expands. You begin to walk differently, speak differently. You see the pain in others and because you pity them, but because you understand. You carry a new kind of power, not from pretending you're invincible, but from knowing you are still standing, still open, still you even after everything. Healing is power. It's the quiet revolution inside your soul. And the more you honor it, the more unstoppable you become. There is something sacred about continuing, about choosing to stay in the fight, to keep going, even when it feels like life has taken more than it's given. Endurance isn't just about time. It's not just about surviving another day. It's about who you become through the act of surviving. Because every step you take through hardship doesn't just get you through it. It chisels your character. It reveals the depth of your spirit. We live in a world that rewards quick wins, instant success, and polished appearances. But real life, isn't built in the easy moments. It's built in the in-between. In the quiet times when no one's watching and you're tempted to quit. In the battles where there's no crowd to cheer you on. When all you have left is your breath, your will, and the tiniest sliver of hope, that's where character is born. Endurance strips away the superficial. It forces you to meet yourself over and over again in the midst of discomfort, fatigue, fear. In doing so, it builds something strong within you, not flashy, not always visible, but enduring. It gives you a kind of integrity that can't be bought, only built. Because the truth is, we don't really know who we are until we've been tested. Until we've had to hold on when everything in us wanted to let go. And here's the beauty of it. The longer you endure, the more you start to realize what truly matters. You stop being impressed by shiny distractions. You start valuing peace over approval, authenticity over applause. The character becomes your compass. You know your worth because you've had to fight for it. You've had to show up for yourself on the hardest days. That kind of self-loyalty doesn't fade. Endurance also creates humility. You stop judging others so harshly because you've been in the fire yourself. You know what it feels like to be misunderstood, to be overlooked, to be at the edge of breaking. And that experience doesn't harden you, it deepens you. It gives you empathy. It teaches you how to be gentle with others and honest with yourself. There will be moments when endurance feels thankless, when you question whether all the effort is worth it. But trust this: every step you take through pain is building something eternal in you. Character doesn't come from what you achieve. It comes from how you carry yourself when nothing is certain, when no one is clapping, when it's just you and the choice to keep walking. Endurance won't always feel like winning. But one day you'll look back at the person you became because you didn't give up, and you'll realize that person is your greatest accomplishment. You wouldn't think it, not when you're in the thick of it. Not when your heart is raw, your mind is exhausted, and your spirit feels like it's been hollowed out. Gratitude seems almost offensive when pain is fresh. What is there to be grateful for when you're hurting? But here's the thing pain does, slowly and quietly. Once the shock begins to wear off, it sharpens your vision. Pain doesn't just strip things away, it reveals what truly matters. And in that clarity, gratitude begins to bloom. When you've walked through loss, real loss, you begin to treasure presence. You notice the smallest gestures, a hand resting on yours, a sunrise that arrives whether you're ready or not, the quiet hum of someone you love breathing next to you. When you've been without peace, you learn to savor its return. When you've known loneliness, connection hits differently. You start saying thank you for things you used to take for granted. The ordinary becomes miraculous. Pain alters your relationship with time. Suddenly, moments aren't just moments. The memories waiting to happen. They're pieces of a life that, once broken, you are now rebuilding, moment by precious moment. You learn that joy is not the absence of pain, but the presence of something meaningful despite it. And that kind of joy, it can only be truly felt by those who've sat in the silence of suffering and still chosen to open their hearts again. Gratitude born of pain is not polite. It's not performative. It's not the kind of thing you write in a journal because someone told you to. It's rooted. It's real. It rises from the understanding that life is fragile, fleeting, and astonishing. You begin to thank life not because it's perfect, but because you survived long enough to feel again. And that survival, that in itself becomes something sacred. And let's not confuse this kind of gratitude with toxic positivity. This isn't about pretending everything is fine when it's not. It's about honoring both the sorrow and the beauty. It's about sitting with the grief and still being able to whisper, "Thank you for another day. Thank you for this breath. Thank you for one more chance to try again." Pain teaches us what we can live without and what we absolutely cannot. It teaches us to hold our loved ones closer, to say the words we've been afraid to say, to forgive, to release, to love in ways that are brave and present and honest. Pain strips away the noise. Gratitude brings in the truth. And over time, you'll find that even in the shadow of suffering, gratitude is there, sometimes not loud, but always loyal. It doesn't erase the pain, It honors it. It says, yes, this happened. And still, I see the light, I feel the grace. I am here. And that awareness, that's a gift only pain could have taught you how to receive. You may not know it now. You may still be standing in the ashes of what was. You may be holding the pieces of a broken chapter, wondering why life allowed you to go through it. But here is one of the most sacred truths about pain, about healing, about survival. What you're going through today might one day be the very story that helps someone else stay alive. Every time you get back up, you're building a story, not a fairy tale, but a real, honest, gritty testament to endurance. And that story, it's powerful because it doesn't come from a textbook. It doesn't come from theory. It comes from lived experience. It comes from tears cried in the dark, from prayers whispered into the void, from days when you didn't think you could go on. But you did. And someone out there needs to hear that story. They don't need to be saved. They don't need a perfect answer. They just need to know they're not alone. That someone else has walked through hell and kept walking. That healing is possible. That even when the pain feels like it will never end, one day it softens. That joy returns. That the heart, though fragile, is also fierce. There are people right now living through what you once barely survived. They are sitting in rooms you once sat in, hospitals, courtrooms, shelters, bedrooms with the curtains drawn and hope slipping through the cracks. They don't need your perfection. They need your truth. They need the courage of your vulnerability. They need to see that scars don't mean failure. They mean healing. When you choose to tell your story, when you show your journey honestly, even the unflattering parts, you become a lighthouse. Not everyone will thank you. Not everyone will understand. But someone will find your words, your voice, your presence, and something in them will breathe again. Something in them will whisper, if they made it, maybe I can too. And that is legacy. That is purpose, not fame, not recognition, but impact. The quiet ripple effect of one brave soul choosing to speak, choosing to share, choosing to stand in their truth, not just for themselves, but for everyone else who needs to borrow that strength for a little while. So don't rush past your story. Don't bury it under shame. Don't edit out the messy middle, because you never know who's listening. You never know who needs your exact story to feel seen. Your survival is more than a personal victory. It's a roadmap, a mirror, a lifeline. And maybe the pain you feel today, the strength it builds in you, maybe that strength becomes the reason someone else keeps going tomorrow. So if you're still carrying pain, if your heart is still heavy, your voice still trembling, your path still uncertain, know this: you are not behind. You are not broken. You are becoming. Every tear, every scar, every battle you've had to fight alone has been preparing you, molding you, and forging within you a strength the world cannot take away. You didn't just survive the pain, you grew in it. And maybe, just maybe, that pain is the reason someone else will survive theirs. Maybe your story, your strength, your truth will be the light that leads someone else through the dark. So hold your head high. You've earned every inch of your resilience. You've walked through the fire and found your way forward without a map. That is not weakness. That is power. That is grace. That is purpose. The pain you feel today is not a curse. It is a calling. It is not here to stop you. It is here to shape you. Because when pain has done its work, what's left is someone unstoppable, unshakable. Someone who knows not only how to survive, but how to rise. And in rising, you don't just heal yourself. You give others permission to rise too. So walk boldly into your tomorrow, because the strength you've built through pain, that strength is your superpower now.